I want to introduce now on 6 p.m. Prime, Vardhan Puri, who is Amrish Puri's grandson, an actor who has also, of course, been a part of many OTT projects. Vardhan, thank you for joining us here on India Today. I'm curious to know what's your view on what's happening right now, what Salman Khan says when he says, there's a lot of gully-galoch, there's vulgarity, nudity, there's obscenity on OTT platforms, and there's a need for censorship.
Hi, firstly, thank you for having me. I do respect everyone's opinion, and especially Salman sir's when he says that he feels there is too much gully-galoch going on. I personally would like to, I would beg to differ. I feel like creativity is dead when there is any kind of censorship. I am anti any kind of censorship. I do believe in certification. I do believe that there can be guidelines put, there can be labels drawn, whether something needs parental guidance. But I feel as adults, everyone has the discretion and the power to choose what they want to view. And for an adult to be viewing any kind of so-called vulgarity or abusive language, I think is a very personal choice. And
Sure.
I do not stand for any kind of censorship, especially on the OTT medium, because I can understand in theaters there is a kind of...
But why is that? Vardhan, explain it to me. Why is it okay in theaters but not okay for OTT? Because that's something that's at home, right? Anyone at home has access to it, which is scary because you have kids now who are able to access this kind of adults-only content.
Right. I don't understand why it's allowed in the theaters, why it's not allowed. But just going by the trend and the way things have been going, we have accepted that in the theaters there are certain films which get certified. Exactly what I'm saying. Certification is fine, but cutting portions out or not allowing something to release because of the language or nudity or so-called vulgarity makes no sense to me.
So you think regulation is okay? Regulation of OTT is something that you feel is fine?
I feel regulation is still fine, but censorship is not. Regulation, of course, is fine because you have to regulate who is being able to watch the content, since there are also children and minors who do consume this kind of content. But the moment there is realization that there is an adult watching or viewing that kind of content, then to have any kind of censorship and cutting off scenes and deciding for people what is okay and what is not for them to watch, I think is kind of ridiculous.
Very often the argument that's put forth that if you look at social media right now, the debate on OTT regulation or censorship, whichever way you'd have it, Vardhan, is that there are many shows and films out there who resort to nudity, who resort to obscenity because it sells and it gets them the numbers that they require, when it's not really necessary for the script or for the artistic freedom that you also speak about. Do you think that's a reality and there is a need to address that as well?
But my question is, who decides whether something is right or wrong? Who decides? It's the maker who should be allowed to decide that. And
no,
it's
so for
the
example, if you have a
choice.
CBFC for films, would you be okay with something like that being set up for OTT?
Whether I'm okay or not is not going to be considered, because ultimately it's the people in power who decide, and rightly so, because if they decide for it to happen, then I don't think we'll be anyone to be able to say anything about it or have any power. But I would not be for it. I think at least the OTT should be allowed to breathe the way it has to, and creativity should not be stifled through the use of any kind of censorship. I think as an artist, it saddens me to know that tomorrow the content which I might put out, the films I will make, the kind of voice I want to put out might be thwarted and might be just made to look like something very different from what I imagined.
All right. We appreciate your thoughts, your opinion on this. Thanks very much, Vardhan, for taking the time out and joining us here on India Today.